Today we are looking into some interesting things, and I really can't wait to show you. So we are going to switch to this screen over here, and we are going to talk to Viktor. Hey, Viktor.
Hello.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, so Viktor brought something interesting here today for us to see. Laser beams. Laser beams go pew pew pew. Can we see some? Oh yeah, we're seeing some.
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem, no problem. Take your time, take
Um,
your time. We have time today. We have a lot of
I,
time
I, wa-
today.
I was just drinking. You just got me wrong moment. Um, yeah. Um, we got some laser beams. It's very simple effect. You might think, but you have to think about a lot of things when you're starting to create a laser beam. And yeah, I mean it really depends on what your game is, of course. What the requirements are, what the thing has to do, but we show you some setup you can build, and you can derive your own changes from there, I guess.
So we kind of have right now this emitter, right, where the lasers shoot out from, and we have the
Exactly.
yeah
Yeah.
we have the pew pew thing.
Yeah, we have a emitter and we have a target. Right now, the target is just on mouse raycast, so we can move it around. This is the target can be anything, any position or like whatever vector free you can get from anywhere. This is where you can get it from.
Yeah.
And it does rely on some flow graph logic. It's not much, but some of it to be done. But this is usually the logic you would have in your game anyway. You should not. I mean, you could create a laser that's obviously just visual and has no effect. But you probably want to find out where the laser hit and maybe do some damage or whatever the laser should do there. So you probably will have this kind of some kind of logic that represents this one. Yeah.
Sorry, there was someone on my door. I'm back. So so you kind of enhanced the flow graph a little bit, right?
By enhancing in my entity that I brought with me.
Oh yeah, right. You included the legacy entity, right?
Yes. So what I did here is I got an entity from GameSDK, and for the very simple reason is right now when you have the engine, the blank project, you have the component entities, and since Flowgraph is about to be deprecated, Flowgraph does not have access to the component entities, so I use the old particle emitter entity, and it's quite quite simple. You have to get from the game SDK. There's a script pack file, and you can open it with any zip tool, and then you get from entities particles the particle Lua, particle effect Lua. Just put it in the same folder where it was, and then there is a one XML file that you have to copy this one line from that it's listed in the sandbox, and then you will have it in the legacy entities, in the create objects where they used to be.
Yeah, I
I
think.
can just and I mean, should I just start building the effect?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. I think I already did like a short tips and tricks tutorial on how to, use all the Lua entities in blank projects.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, once you have this in, sure everything works by just creating a particle, assigning it. But yeah, it should just work. There's no real big dependencies on this entity. There's some other that have more. Yeah. Anyway, so we let's bring the asset browser. So I have a laser particle here, which does exactly this. I just not gonna use it. We're just gonna build it from scratch. Just gonna create a folder here. And particles. So new asset, I create a particle. This is gonna be the laser new and beta. And we double click it, open it up. And what you might be doing is like when you drag and drop it from here, you will not get the legacy entity type when you do that. You will get the new component entity, which is the wrong one we don't want to use, but you can just copy that path from here and paste it in the old one, and you will see it will behave exactly the same as a different entity. And for what we want to do here, we don't need the prime option. We want to disable that. The prime is a setting for effect that run continuously, like there's like a smoke pillar or something going on. And when the prime is on, the moment the particle is turned on, it will behave like it was always running. So let me demonstrate that.
So there's no start, no beginning.
Yeah, it will basically fake. Yeah. Let me give it a bit of brevity. So if you would have like a smoke pillar here, and when you disable this, it runs out, and when you enable it, it starts and then it goes. And you see it was starting here with a lot of them already. And this is because I have a curve here. This is not good. It can't properly simulate this curve. So but anyway, if the prime is off, it will slowly start. But when the prime is on, it will spawn as many particles as they would have been running. Just wondering where the interesting. To investigate why it was not perfect showing with pillar already. Anyway, not related to that. And this one has a 2. One. We don't need this one. Second again. So the first thing, of course, in laser, we want some kind of target. And you can see here, I have an entity. Also, yeah, I have the terrain thing on. And I can move the target and the source. And how to get that is simple. You need any kind of target entity, and I'm gonna use a create object. I'm gonna use empty entity, just because the target will not have any functionality than just a position. So it's pretty much just a helper. Yeah. And with the particle selected, you can go into the entity links in the properties, and you can pick this one and go out of the picking. So yeah.
So we always have to pick from or at least we have to select the emitter first and then the target, right?
Exactly. So it has to be in the properties of the emitter.
Okay.
And it's not a linking. It's not the with the link tool. They are free to move. The others will not move together with them. And one thing that's written somewhere in the documentation how to do it, but basically you have to know. You have to name it target, and you have to name the link target. The entity itself can be named anything, doesn't matter. But this one has to be named correctly. And what it will allow you to do is create a ribbon. So ribbons, we went through ribbons last time with the wind.
We did. Yeah, yeah.
And let me save this. Ribbons. Let's restart this one. I'm gonna create an offset here just to show off the ribbons again. All about. Why?
Does it not spawn?
I don't know. I spawned it. I had a reset on a very high rate there. And oh no, I only spawned one. And I have the location offset, which is very far away.
Oh yeah. Now you can see. I think that's a visual bug, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll show you in a moment why this is. So
Okay.
when you have the offset, I mean, I talked about this last time. When you have the offset, I mean, of course, you have 2 points on your ribbon. Even if you give it 10 points, the offset will just move all of them to one location. And what you want is you want a line, so you want to distribute them. So you go with spawn fraction, and basically we'll have is yeah, give them a bit more lifetime. So now you created a line, and without the spawn fraction, you can see this does still work, but it's just because on the ribbon you have connect to parent, and it's just the last point always goes back.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hi Simon, welcome.
So right now we have a normal offset which just has a vector, but it doesn't go to the target. What we want to do is we want to replace the offset with the beam, location beam. And on the position here, we're gonna do the linear spawn fraction again. And now it does go to the target. And why does it so? And it's these settings that make it go to the target. And you can just pick the source, the parent, basically here. The destination is the target with some kind of offset. We don't want any offset, so that's all 0. And the position is basically from 0 to 1. It's like 0 will be the source and 1 is the destination. So you just lerp between the position. But since we have a modifier here, we can put the spawn fraction on it. So it will distribute the points evenly between them. And we could additionally also make just to demonstrate that there are multiple points actually. I'm going to switch to a curve here. and I'm gonna just do this. I'm just going to create a bump. So now you can see
Oh, okay, okay.
there are actually multiple points, and 10 can give it more. It's really smooth. And when I move the target, it will update with the rate that we set here.
And it will also smooth out if you, for example, put the target quite far away.
It will just like it will stretch it.
Or stretch it. Okay, okay, yeah.
I mean, it's it's not like the bump is always a certain length. You could do that. It's a bit more involved.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah, it's
interesting.
but since since we're doing lasers,
We do lasers,
we
yeah.
don't have any of that. Lasers just go straight. So we don't need that. Now the only thing, see the update rate is very low. What we want to do is want to give it a very, very short lifetime and set the restart to the same value as the lifetime. And by very short, I mean something like 0.01. And what this will do is it will basically do it 100 times a second.
Oh, that's a good
If you
speed.
don't exceed 100 frames, it will just do it every. Once you go higher than 100 frames, you will see that like the stutter, it will look like it's stuttering because it's only updating 100 FPS. If you have issues with that, you just go lower, set it to 0.05, and you basically now just have 200 FPS.
Does it impact performance a lot?
No, because it will still just do it once a frame.
Okay, okay.
It can't restart multiple times per frame, so it will. You just set it to your expected highest FPS that your game will probably have. And yeah, I mean, above 500 FPS starts things to break anyway, so you
Yeah.
should be fine. um, so yeah, so 0.002 will be uh, 500 FPS.
Yeah, that's a good frame rate.
Yeah, so now we have that. We're just updating that. And now we only need some visuals on that because the default rendering is, of course, you still have lighting on it, and you want to add some things. You will need the material. You will need the opacity. You will need the visibility. You will need, but gonna no, maybe later I will cover some stuff. And you will need lighting, and the lighting is the most important. So basically, it doesn't have any diffuse because it doesn't really scatter light. Should not be affected by sun. It should not. Sometimes this will help you a lot in game production because you maybe are asked to make a laser that works at night and day, and which is like physically not correct. Like or like it will work in night and day, physically correct, but you will see way more of it at night than you will see it at daytime. So this is sometimes we trick here a bit by giving it just diffuse and backlight. So it's also lit by the sunlight. So the more sun there is, the brighter the laser is, basically. You don't want to do that if you if you if you're sure about your emissive colors and your environment doesn't change, then you don't care about that. And then you set the emissive brightness to whatever value will match with your lighting. And gonna disable the environment lighting. The environment lighting is so it doesn't pick up environment probes, light sources. So this is actually quite a big performance impact on the particles. So you always want to disable that if you don't really need it. Yeah. So the next thing, I mean, I put in some light values, but actually I can't know the light values, how much emissiveness I will need before I haven't applied the texture yet. And
Yeah. Do you have a texture already prepared?
yes, I have prepared something. So we have a light line here, and I mean, we could go without and say just like put to a very low number and it's like, yeah, basically, technically we created a laser here. And then we just give it so much lighting that we just rely on the bloom. And yeah, you see a bit of bloom here. See, so you could do that. It's up to you. But yeah, I just give it a lower light, and then I have a bit better control over the look. But now you can see, obviously, I have a dark outline here, and this is because in opacity, the blend mode is set to alpha, and this texture doesn't have an alpha, and you should not set it to alpha anyway because this is a light source. It's additive. So now you have a laser with some bloom, which is just in the texture. And how I did texture is, this is a very simple thing. In Photoshop, you could do the this way, just create a gradient, go here, and basically Photoshop, when you come in, when you press Control R, you get the ruler.
Yeah.
The ruler. You can just drag a line from here and just drag it. It will snap automatically in the center, unless you have edited your snapping snap rules. But it will just snap in the center, and this is where the center of the ribbon will be. In this version, the ribbon is always the ribbon texture always goes vertical. So you should consider making your textures vertical. You can't rotate them unless you do some customizations to the shader.
Is there any specifics to the resolution of this texture, or it doesn't matter at all?
No, it follows the same rules as all the other textures. As if you want compression and mid-maps, you obviously have to be in power of 2. So this texture is 256 by 512. And yeah, just keep it power of 2, and then everything will be fine. The ratio doesn't really matter. You can make it more narrow if you don't need it. You can make it like super, because it's a stretch texture anyway. There's actually no point in having it that long if you don't have any detail. Usually you would just make it as small as possible.
It will work as
But
well.
yeah, how to do it? Yeah. But yeah, with just like a layer selected, you go into the gradient tool, switch it to the mirror mode, refracted gradient, and the tool will snap automatically if you're trying to drag close to the line. Hold Shift so it's horizontally aligned. Don't go perfectly to the edge. You give it a bit more space just for mid-maps and stuff. Release, and voila, it didn't do nothing because I have multiply here, so it just darkens the my black, which is already black. And yeah, do that again with the mode set to normal, not multiply. Then do this, and you have your gradient inverted, which I don't want, so I just Control I and just flip it. And then to do, you can apply a curve. Something looks like this. And so you basically have your laser in the center, and then you have some light fall off. But what I showed is actually the not so good way, because unless you have like 16-bit image and then you convert back to 8, you will get some color fringing. You have also, even if it's grayscale, even if it's not color fringing, you lose some details. What you actually want to do is you just create a gradient layer, so that you reflect it, and then you pick you click on the gradient, and then you can just create a gradient. Flip. You want the black to be all the way there. You want some darker here maybe. So you basically create a step, and then you have some glow there. Follow. And this is really up to you, how you want this texture to look like, how much glow you want, stuff like this. And with this gradient, because it doesn't apply this curve on top, where you have an image and then you basically bend the colors a lot. Because this is procedurally generated, or like it's always generated from the node. It doesn't matter what resolution you do in your image. It will always be perfect, or as perfect as the image allows it. And yeah, I mean, obviously this is one way. Photoshop, you can create this texture in any tool, Substance Designer, whatever, Paint 3D, as long as you can import it. And I think if you go through the asset browser, you have a lot of import options for what kind of images you can import. But I'm gonna create a new file. So I'm gonna save it through the creative exporter from Photoshop. I'm not gonna import it through the asset browser. And I'm just gonna call it new, laser line glow new. And I'm gonna keep the compression to albedo. It will compromise a lot of quality in compression, but it's totally fine for this image. And I'm gonna downsample it a bit. We don't need that high resolution. It's not big on screen anyway.
There's a comment
Yep.
for you. Looks like next time we're doing lightsabers, says Simone.
I mean, we can do it now.
I know, right? Because actually, like creating a lightsaber is not that hard. You can even put like a designer object and put some emitter on it.
I mean, this is like.
Yeah, please, sound effects is important. It works. It works.
Yes. And yeah, let's just check out the new texture. Yeah, much better. Slightly different. So this is how you do that. And technically, you created a laser. It goes from point A to point B. Now you just need some fancy effects. I have this impact effect. It's also a very simple thing. It's just a texture as well. Same thing, just gradients, painted a bit, duplicated, just some lines that you just move around. This is really up to you. You can get creative here how you do this.
Yeah, that's a pretty simple process, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is there's texture packs, there's generators. I think Substance Designer has a dedicated generator for the star shapes. So you can there's a node for you to generate this.
But I'm
Yeah,
interested in
there's
how you got it moving.
yes. So right now we have this texture like this sprite here on the left, and this is our source. And we want to get it here at the target. So what we do is we apply again the location beam. Where's the beam? And this time we're not going to use here we use the spawn fraction to distribute evenly. But if we keep the position at 1, it will be always at the location of the target. But it's not locked. Like if the target moves, it will not follow it. And this is just a limitation. You can't make it move. Like the location, there's the motion move relative to emitter. The move relative to emitter only applies to the emitter. So this will work, but it will not work. Not work like this. Very difficult. This thing is big and blocks my gizmo. So yeah, it will not move here with this one. What you basically want to do is just give it a high rate again. You could do it and then give it a very short lifetime again. So now I have 100 per second and the lifetime is 001. And now it follows it with 100 frames basically. So you will, if you need higher rates, you should go higher there. And the movement, I have some jittering here.
Mm-hmm. How did
The
you do
movement
that?
is actually it's a very simple thing. Let me just first apply the. I'm actually gonna copy over material and lighting from here because they have the same brightness anyway. But so I need to swap out the texture here and also get the opacity from here because I don't want the additive. So now
It
I have this
already is.
flimmering.
Yeah.
It's already flimmering, and that's just the byproduct of the yeah.
Oh, okay, 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 okay.
Yeah, it's just because sometimes it overlaps. I could maybe we don't do the rate, but don't count with the reset. Oh, it's a lot of just one. This is a more stable setup because now it only spawns one, and it just restarts when it's done with one. So when the one dies, it's spawning one again.
Oh, so now it does just respawn it
So yeah,
200 times a second.
yes, it will. Well, it's 500 right now.
Oh, okay.
0.02. It's 500 FPS, but it will do it like if the frame ends and the frame was not 500 FPS, even if it was just 30 FPS, it will just in the next frame it will just spawn one again. With the rate, you get sometimes because technically, if you have 30 FPS, you slow down. In the 30 FPS, you need to spawn way more than one to keep up to 500 FPS rate. It's just how the distribution would work. Basically, if you want to keep 500 a second, you will get if your frame rate varies, you get different amounts per frame. That's essentially setup if you use a rate. if you use count, you always make sure that it's always 1. So we got away of the flickering, but actually we want the flickering back, but we don't want uncontrolled
Uncontrolled flickering.
uncontrolled flickering. We won't have control about it. And also the flickering that you saw earlier is just because there is multiple of them on top of each other, and this is just performance heavy. Like it's not like it will not kill your machine, but it's still alpha overdraw, and alpha overdraw is quite a considerate amount of cost, especially when you're that close up and it's like green filling. And so we want it to flicker, and the first thing is to add angles rotation to D. Range stuff here a bit. And on the rotation to D, we just give it random angle.
Oh. Okay. Way simpler than I thought.
Yeah. It's really just every time it spawns, it just has slightly a completely different angle. You can also just lock it to like 5 degrees or 25 maybe. So maybe you have a bit more control here. So yeah, this is pretty much easy. And then on the size, you also just add some randomness.
Yeah, right.
0.5. So it looks like it has different towing. Also, you can add a random on the opacity as well. Here you barely see it. It's just because it's very bright anyway.
Can we also
So
put a random on?
Oh yeah. On yes.
On lighting on emissive, on the emissiveness.
Well, no.
Okay.
The emissive, but yes. No, but yes.
No, but okay.
You have to consider that we are in additive mode anyway.
All right. Okay,
so when we blend, we only add light, and this is the emissive amount is just the maximum we would ever add. So you should consider that when the particle is white, when the opacity is 1, it means we will add 50. What is this? Candela lux. Is it lux? Or lumen? I think it's lux.
I think it's lux, yeah.
I'm not sure. No, I think it's lumen. No.
I think it's no. I'm not sure, but
anyway, this looks. Anyway, this is the maximum amount you will ever add if the particle is 100% white and just opacity is 1.
Okay.
But by just toning down the opacity, you're automatically toning down the lux, basically. Because you're just going dimmer, you know.
That makes sense because the blend mode is on additive.
Yes. If you're in alpha mode and then you have some emissive here, this is a different story. Is then it's not so easy to change it. And then you need some custom shader where you have to control over the emissive map and stuff like that. But it can be done. Okay. Yeah, this looks pretty much like the thing I prepared. Ideally, you would also have one in the beginning. Because you also have like in laser, you have some kind of when you look inside, you should not look inside lasers.
Please don't.
But when you do, when you do,
but when you do, make sure there are 2. What are those things? Stars, like shining stars.
Yeah, I mean, you have different kind of. I mean, obviously, you would if you ever look at in a laser or something, you have some kind of lens or like some kind of glasses, and they break light, and then it makes this look like it's this stars formation, but it's technically just on the lens that it's between you and the laser. But yeah, so we have that. Maybe let's go to how we make the whole thing move.
Yeah.
I'm gonna remove this, what we have here, and gonna move this here into the scene. So the emitter is here, target is there. When we jump in game, we see it broke because I obviously deleted the entities that were connected, and we only have the targets, the mouse cursor target that we used. And now we're gonna just look at what the logic does here. So on game start, we enable the mouse cursor. And we also go into the camera. And we also enable the input mouse raycast. And it will just raycast from the camera position to towards the mouse cursor, and it will hit a point somewhere in the level.
I think for now it only looks for static objects, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's filtered for static objects. So we don't collide with dynamic, and we also bound to only this tabletop here. And it will return a position where it hit. We don't have any information what it hit, or we could, if we don't look for static but for entity types, we can get the entity ID and then find out if it should take or whatever. But this is actually not the laser. This is just the desired position of where we would like to shoot the laser. And what we need to do is right now, just for visualization purpose, where's the position? Oh yeah, no. So we get the position here, and then we have the entity pos, which is this ball here. We just move it around. So it's just there is something visually there. You don't need the ball. It's you only need the position. We just it's just a visualization of what's going on. From this ball, we want to know if on the other way around, from the particle emitters, this is whatever our laser cannon would be, and we want to know if you would hit the ball. And when the ball is behind cover, obviously you would know. But we need to find out. So we take the position of the ball, and we subtract. And here you can see it's red because I deleted the one. And here I assign my new particle effect. We subtract the position of the particle emitter. So now we know the direction. This is how you calculate a vector between two objects. This vector is not normalized. This is a direction, basically. So from the particle, go in this direction in world space to go towards the ball. This vector is not normalized, but we don't care here. I mean, this is will accept not normalized vectors anyway. If you have some kind of other math, you maybe want to normalize after that. And now we do a raycast. It's physics raycast, and here we have to assign the entity again. So it will do the raycast from the particle effect in the direction of it will go into the direction of the ball, which we just discovered where it is.
Of the target,
and
right?
of the target, yes. Yes. There's a max length. I just put 500. It's just ridiculously long, 500 meters. It's just because you sometimes you have rays that do not get to the target, that miss the target, or like miss any surface, and you want to limit that search. Because if you didn't hit anything in 500 meters, we are pretty sure that you didn't hit anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So otherwise, we'll just continue. Like if you put it higher, the default value is very low, so you should increase that, of course, to your maximum legit search area. And here the position is 0, 0. It's just an offset of the object, so you don't want it in the object. You can also transform direction. This is just keep it default, and this object type is also does it collides with everything because the you need to hover here. Just a list of the object types. You can filter for different object types there. But anyway, we want to look for everything and just get a hit point. So whenever we hit something, and I'm just gonna save that here, and yeah, hit point. I'm gonna also draw a debug sphere. So now we're just in debug mode and see this is the purple sphere. This is this node here, debug draw. Just have the color set to purple and some radius. And now you can see the purple sphere will jump there to the wall because it does hit the wall. It did hit the wall, and it doesn't go through it and doesn't reach the ball. So we have discovered the hit point. Now we just need to also move this target, the arrow selected. This target, which is the actual assigned particle visual target, we just need to move it here. So we just assign it here. We have the entity pos. We feed the hit point into the position of it, and that should already do the trick. So now the laser just follows it. So what we also did on the other one, it was you could see that I was able to shoot the laser, and I was able to visualize if the laser hit the target or not. It is changing from red to green. And how we do that is we take the position of this desired entity, like this desired target, where the mouse is, and we check against the hit point where the actual laser hit point happened to, and we just subtract them, and we get the vector-free magnitude, so we know the distance between them, these 2 points. And there's different nodes you can do that. You can check distance on entities like this. It's just one way to do it. And I just have like a very little number here, and I just do a check. Is it actually less than a centimeter away from each other? If it is, I consider it to be not a hit. We can just with display message here. We could just debug that. So see on the left here, you have true, and it switches to false if it wasn't a hit. There might be like angles where it actually wasn't a hit, but it's still like maybe you have walls that are less than a centimeters wide.
But I think you can still avoid that because right now we just
you just make the numbers smaller. So it will still work because the raycast, I mean, unless you run into some precision issues and you're like really far off the map border and stuff like this, they should be still very, very close to each other.
But
you can tweak it here, how much you want, how much precision you want.
But you could put that target on a constraint, right, and just allow him to move on one axis.
Yes, I mean what you do here is like this is you have the full freedom of how you move things. Put different constraints on them and stuff like this.
Yeah. Oh, would you look at that? Who joined the chat? Polygon Polierer.
Huge kisses to Poly.
Hey Spunky, thank you for your follow, guys.
So we found out if we hit it or not, but now we need to also do something with that information on the particle. And we have, I mean, it's creative freedom what we do. On an actual laser, nothing would change, but maybe you have some guided weapon that changes the laser color if you acquire the target or something like this. And I just choose the color one because this is the usual familiar way, but also it shows a bit of a trick how to do stuff. So in the particle, when you go into the show effect options, if you're missing that, basically you're missing a toolbar here. So just get the toolbars, get the effect and library toolbars in. So if you go there, you have in the inspector, you can see the attribute, and you can just add an attribute. And now you would say like, okay, this is we want to switch colors, so I'm gonna create a new color attribute. And it is one way to do it, but you once you do that, you give away the creative control to decoders and technical designers, and usually you don't want that.
No, you don't want that.
They will put colors that you will not want.
Those guys cannot work with colors, but I think they can work with a Boolean, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is why you keep it to a Boolean and just call it is underscore hit. I mean, it doesn't matter how you call it; it's up to you. And this checkbox is just a default value. If you drag it into a level, what should it be?
Thank you for your follow, Big Ziegel. Sorry.
Hallo Ziegel. Big Ziegel.
Big Ziegel, yeah.
So flow graph. In the flow graph, we have just the value if it wants a hit or not. And here I do a set number. You could feed it in directly, but there's a special case we need to do when we do the pew pew.
Yeah, we need to do pew pew.
Yeah, the pew pew is important. This is why I go through any node here. Because I need to set something twice, and it will explain later on. But technically it's just like the Boolean is a 0, 1, and we just set the 0, 1 on the attribute. It's a particle attribute set node, and we just pick the particle again, sign this one here, and the attribute is hit. It will not list it here. You have to know how it's called. You have to type it in correctly. So we just make sure we just copy paste over here. There is no typos. Now when we do that, nothing changes because the attribute doesn't do anything. But it does exist and we can do stuff with it. And now on the ribbon, we're gonna create a color.
There's a request from the chat.
Yes.
Simone says, "Hey, but I'm an indie dev, so it's just me doing it and all. And I want hot pink."
Hot pink.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. We will do hot pink. We keep the color to white, the base color, just so we because the modifiers work as a multiplier. So if your color is not white, you cannot reach all colors. Just because you can only multiply and colors will always just get darker and darker. So you cannot, if you don't have full white, you will not be able to do any color anymore. And we just apply a color curve, and we get the attribute. We set the attribute name. I did here again, by the way. It's still this issue that these fields don't update. So if you switch the attribute and you just don't see the field, just click somewhere, go back, and you will get the attribute. So we pick the attribute as hit. We have the enabled. And now the color curve is from 0 to 1. And since this is a Boolean, we don't have any values in between. We only have 0, which is the leftmost one, and we have 1, which is the rightmost. And once it's hit, it's gonna be obviously hot. What was it? Hot pink.
Hot pink, yeah, hot pink.
Hot pink. Well, how is the hot?
That's hot pink.
That's hot pink. I guess so. Let me just. I haven't saved in a long time. I might save to him.
Yeah, that's hot pink.
Yeah, this is hot pink. And when we didn't hit, 0 value, gonna be not so hot blue, I guess. Or what is the? So now we can just here we can just see how it behaves. And we can not only debug this, we can also just jump in game and see that it actually does work already.
Oh, this is beautiful.
So whenever we reach target, we have the hot pink. Otherwise, we have the not so hot blue. And obviously, we want the same thing for the Darcy's. So we just copy these over. And now the Darcy's also do that.
Oh, nice.
And let me get rid of the debug ball. Just do that. In game, so there is no ball, and yeah. And what I also had is when on the other effect, when the ray was hitting, it did like a bit of a Ghostbustery swirly thing around it, and this is just some not so laser-like behavior. They don't go bendy ways, but we can just do that anyway. So I'm gonna just duplicate the ribbon and set the first one. We have like 50 points here on the ribbon. It's really not necessary. You only need 2. And this is just you need like a start in the beginning. So it's just a waste of points. But on the second one that I copied over, I keep the 50 because we want to do the bendy ways. And it does pretty much the same thing. And I showed earlier that you can also apply the offset after that. So you can still bend the race. If you just apply an offset, it will just offset it. If you give it a curve where like the start is 0 and the end is 0, you make sure that the path does hit where it's the start and end will match. So you want that, but we want a bit more going on. I mean, you could give it a wave here as well, and put it to global level time. So you kind of created something, and now you could start doing wave patterns and stuff like this, but we don't want that. Too much work. We just go location noise.
Oh, this looks really good already.
And now you have some lightning stuff. I mean, you can just set the rate to ridiculously high and you will just get a lightning effect.
This looks good.
So you can do that. But if you have the rate to a lower number, you will get some wobbly motion. You want to increase the noise size, maybe, if you do the wobbly, so it doesn't break the ribbon too much. And now, see, this is obviously not what we want. It does not hit the target, so we have to apply the curve again. So on the spawn fraction, we do again a curve, so just like in the start and end is at 0, so we have noise, and I can just solo this one here. So see, you have some wobbly motion in between, and it always reaches the target where it should be.
Can we have one smooth like this one and one really lightning like?
Sure. I mean, you can just duplicate this one, and where's the noise?
Oh yeah. Now it looks like a Ghostbusters beam.
Yeah, yeah. And since they also have the color, they will do color change as well. So here, and see how they will also stretch. Here, when I showed you earlier where we stretched this offset where it was just stretched, you know.
Yeah.
Let me show you something here is actually if I set the rate to 0, not size, the rate. Set the amplitude to something higher. It's a bit too high. So too high. What will happen here is it will not stretch it.
It will create just more.
Yes, because the noise is in world space. So it's this size here that does control basically the stretchiness of it. But sadly you can't animate this one. But yeah, it's but usually you don't want to animate it anyway because it actually just, like it will be very noisy if you size. But yeah, it will make sure that like the node will make sure that however long your ribbon is, you still get these similar noise patterns, you know. So because you designed it to be in a certain frequency, and it keeps the frequency steady. And the only thing you can see here it starts breaking, it's just because it's now very long and we just don't have enough points. We only have 50 points, and we could increase that, so it will stay smooth. It will just go.
Interesting.
And yeah, but we want the noise to wobble around.
There's a comment.
This.
If I have a ghost problem, I'm calling Victor now. Yeah.
I will make the race happen. So now these two, so these new two ribbons that we created, we only want to show when the hit happens. And what we can do is on the count, we just set the attribute here, and we just put the is hit attribute. Attribute on the count. And what it will do is like, because it's when its hit is true, so it's 1, it will be 50 times 1, so we have 50. But if its hit is false, it will be a 0. And therefore the amount is 50 times 0, which is 0, so we get none. So they will just disappear. And this is also one of the benefits here, that we didn't do the color approach first. So if we would have exposed the color here, we would need to go into the flow graph. We create a color, and we create 2 different values for is hit or is not hit. So we tweak the color here, and now we want to introduce a new feature, which is we also want to disable some components or stuff like this. And suddenly we have to change the logic again, because now we only set like colors, and you don't want to go with here and deal with colors, calculating into what the color will mean into the spawn count. This is not what you want to do. So by just staying abstract, or like it is the technical, like what's changing on the effect. The details should then be set to the VFX artist, who decides what to do with this information, if the ray was hit or not. Because now we can also do on this ribbon here, we could also change the size. Like if we go attribute and just pick the is hit, so could make it like too much. Can make it 1 ray. Okay. So it gets like really thin. Gets this targeting, and then here it's basically energy flowing, and then here it's like some target. I don't know if you can see it even if the stream. Maybe too subtle. But also I could make the screen bigger again. So now you have also the component changes sizes of the same ribbon, changes color, and you can change a lot of things. So now the only thing is that's missing is making it shoot, and this is pretty much just an enable disable. And this part is the reason why we brought the old legacy entity. Before that, like what I showed before, or like what I showed up to this point, is everything can be done with the component entity, with the component particle entity. You can do all of that, even with flow graph and everything. This part will just work. The only part that's missing is the disable enable on the emitter, and sadly it's missing because you can't access the component. But if you use the legacy one, you can assign it here, or like when you this node does not exist. If you look for it, if you look for particle here, should not list it. You basically just have the entity and you just drop it in there, right click, add selected entity. And now you have access to some functions from the Lua. And what we do here is we have the mouse button info, if the mouse button is pressed or not, or it was released. And when the button is pressed, it enables the particle. If the button was released, it goes through this any node because on game start we disable the particle. So when you jump in game, there is no effect. You can see our target ball, but when I click, it shoots the laser. And as long as I hold, it will keep it on. But then once I release it, turn it off again. And we do that. This is the logic, and now here is the tiny workaround. I can show you what will happen if I don't do that. So when I hit here, you can see I'm behind the wall and I'm still pink. And if I don't move the mouse, it stays pink. But once I move the mouse, it gets the update that it actually didn't hit. So on the first click, it's the wrong value. And this is just because how this logic is built. Because we are not moving the mouse, it doesn't update this value. And these attributes, they get destroyed when the particle is disabled. So the particle is when the particle is disabled, it gets kicked out of memory. So it doesn't consume anything anymore, and it loses its value. So when you enable the particle again, you have to make sure that you also set the attribute once you do that to the right. So basically just do it in the same frame, get the attributes that you need, get the values that you need, and just set them again because they are not set when you spawn. And here you can see it does work correctly on every click. So much for the laser. How much time do we have?
Actually, we are way above our timeline, so we can wrap it up already. So yeah, I think we can release that build right to our community on Discord because we didn't use anything that's not ours. Of course, I have to delete the textures that are currently used there, but generally we can release that on Discord. It's fine. Yeah, thank you for your time, Viktor. That was really, really cool. I hope I've learned a lot. I hope you guys learned a lot as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Viktor.
Yeah.
And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.
Okay, bye.